Hey everybody, this is Steve Tarter. Another edition of Tartar Sauce here at the Peoria Journal-Star in snowy Peoria. It's a little early, but hey, it's October. My guest Tara Cox had just said, Tara, you with us from, I'll let you say it first, and then I'll remember it.
College Nannies, Sitters, and Tutors of Peoria-Bloomington.
Okay, and this is something that you've got a lot of people involved with this. It's a franchise.
It is,
and you've got the Peoria-Bloomington area. How did you wind up getting into that? What made you? Because I know you said you would work in corporate, and came back from maybe an assignment, and then thought, I'm going to go in a different direction.
Mm-hmm. And that's exactly how it all happened.
Okay.
And so I had spent about 17 years within the Peoria area for a company working in the corporate world, and then moved to international. And while I was international, I ran into a lot of challenges that I never expected to. I had 2 young children, and all of a sudden, my family wasn't nearby.
Right.
And I had to figure out what to do while I was working with these wonderful children, and found out I was very particular and didn't really understand the complexity of when you are living somewhere and you don't have that family strength around you.
Right.
And so when I came back to the Peoria area, I decided that there's a lot of people out there that were in similar circumstances as me and wanted to make a change to the community. And so as I investigated it, I ran across College Nannies, Sitters, and Tutors.
Well, now, nannies, what would you say is the distinction between nannies and sitters? I think I know, but you tell me.
Yeah. So probably what you're thinking when it comes to a nanny, that's about having a regular schedule with 1 to 2 people within your home. And typically we can develop a learning curriculum for that nanny to share with the children. When it comes to a sitter, that's more of a, I may only need that person occasionally on a Friday night. I may only need them, on a Monday, then again on a Thursday. And with them, it's really about let's have fun, let's stay engaged, let's stay away from the TV, and let's really focus on imaginary play and creative play, and let's see what crafts we have, and let's just have a good time. But either way, with a nanny or a sitter, it's about having someone safe in your home that you trust.
Right. And what is the biggest challenge for you? Because you mentioned before we went on here that you're always looking for new people and always looking for families and put the two together. So is that the biggest challenge, or is it marketing, or is it just how do you look at it from what you're doing?
I think right now the biggest challenge is that Peoria itself is going through a transformation. And as we think about the transformation Peoria is making and redefining who Peoria is, it's really about understanding how we can better serve our families and the people that we employ. And so with that, we are constantly looking at ways to continue to grow, looking for gaps that we can fill. And it's also about finding families that want that learning and development focus with their children in their home, and bringing in the right talent into the organization
that can provide it. You mentioned a good point, transformation for Peoria. Are we talking about Caterpillar? What are we talking about?
Yeah. I think right now Peoria itself is going through a very large transformation. You have the changes taking place at Caterpillar. We're redefining who we are within the medical industry. In addition to that, we are constantly hearing on the news about the changes with the budget. So
I'm right there. Believe me, I get a front row seat on that one, so I hear that. Yeah, and it is challenging. It's probably more if we have the folks from the city here, they probably say it's more than a challenge. It's sort of looking at a cliff that we may fall into. But how do you see it? Are you optimistic? Obviously, you're originally from this area. You've worked elsewhere. You've been overseas. How do you see it? What do you see happening here?
Yeah, well, I did start a business here, so I have to be optimistic.
Yeah, you got to be optimistic, and kudos to you for starting the business. Let's not forget that. Okay.
But it's really about, understanding where you want your anchor to be. And for me, it was to be around my family, and having that within the Peoria area was very important. And I do have faith in the Peoria community and in the Bloomington community. And so, yeah, I am optimistic. I'm optimistic that we'll understand our challenges, we'll embrace those challenges, and we will put a lot of thought into redefining who we are as a community.
Right.
And I want to be a part of that. I want to make sure that families have trust that if they do have to work additional hours, they do have to go on trips, they do have to give that extra bit for the organization that they're working for, that they know that their children's going to be well cared for.
That's a good point. Yeah, because, and we've talked about this, it's funny how this subject comes up as we talk to different folks, and not necessarily politicians, not necessarily people that are involved with sort of figuring out which way the public sentiment's going to go. But, yeah, I mean, we're all sort of creatures of the media, and I guess social media now is more instantaneous than ever. There tends to be, you can get a drumbeat going and sort of, Peoria is having problems, and Peoria is this, and Peoria that. And to turn that, I don't know, it takes some work.
It takes a lot of thought and a lot of effort, and people like me, small business owners, remaining to be dedicated to the area.
Right.
We need to have that successful growth.
The nanny, because I think that's always a sort of a summons up a mental image of something. What's the misconception people have with a nanny?
So I always give the story, don't think of our nanny as something like, Alice from the Brady Bunch, who's there doing mostly housekeeping and caring for the children.
What about Mary Poppins? That's okay, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's good.
Unless you expect us to fly, then we're going to have problems.
Okay, well.
But no, it's really about making sure they understand what we want to deliver for them, which is a learning and development environment for the children. Yes, we do want them to be safe. That's our number one priority. And we want them to continue to be challenged in a learning environment. And so we need to make sure that when we enroll families, that they have that expectation, because they don't always. And if they have different expectations than what we have, then we're not going to be able to deliver appropriately. Right. And it's really about making sure that it's a good fit for everyone involved. We spend a massive amount of time with our nannies and our families understanding personalities and expectations and matching them up that way. So if it's not a good match, someone walks away frustrated, and we don't want that.
Right. Is there an average time that you have that somebody will be a nanny for a family, or is that across the board?
Yeah, so across the board, the average of nannies, the life cycle of a nanny is typically about 6 months is all.
Right.
And the reason for that is twofold. Either the nanny has decided that they are ready to move on to something different, or the family's life has changed. What we find is that life change happens a lot more frequently than what we want to admit.
Sure.
And about that 6-month mark seems to be about it. But now, saying that, when we do find those perfect matches and we can work around those life changes, we find that the nanny will be in that home for, a year, a year and a half, 2 years.
Become part of the family.
Right.
For at least temporarily.
But it's really about making sure that the family always knows that they have someone who is there, who's reliable to care for their children. So if the nanny is sick, if the nanny's not available, we have what we call a secondary or backup nanny that fills in for them.
And that's Mary Poppins. Okay.
That's right.
She flies in. Okay.
And they know they can always count on having that backup.
Right.
And I think that's
good.
also important.
And that's one reason why they would go with you. You have that organization.
And that is part of what the service offers. So along with the service, we do extensive background checks on all of our nannies and our sitters. We look at their personalities. We look at their long-term career plans and aspirations before ever even bringing them on board. Once they're part of our team, they go through ongoing learning and development. They're CPR certified. They're first aid trained. And then we continue to keep them engaged through that ongoing learning.
You made a point when we were talking earlier about the nannies and the sitters are at the home of the customer, but the tutors, you have a learning center.
We do.
And where is that?
It's located on North Knoxville by the Chinook, so Knoxville Crossing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's a little different setup. Explain that. I mean, is it all ages or what do you serve there?
So sometimes it does get a little deceiving because our name is College Nanny+Sitters and Tutors, and so people think, oh, is it only college students, whether we're tutoring or who we hire? It means college-educated individuals are assisting families, whether it's through the nanny, sitters, or tutors aspect of it. And so with our learning center, we begin tutoring at very young ages, as young as pre-K, and then we provide adult learning. So if somebody's studying for their GED, if they're in college and having problems with advanced physics. So we provide a wide range of support.
Is it a classroom setting?
The majority of what we offer is actually one-on-one customized tutoring. So we look at the core curriculum that's provided by the state of Illinois. We look at what age the student is, what grade they're in, what those expectations are expected to be. We do have an Illinois licensed teacher who is our Learning Center manager, which I should say now I'm extremely blessed with the managers that I have on board.
Okay.
Without them, the business would not be successful.
Do you have the same thing in Bloomington?
We cover both areas.
At the one location here in Peoria?
Yeah, yeah. And so with that, we perform an assessment if it's necessary, and then we look at, again, personalities of the student, expectations of the parents, where those foundational gaps are, and then we put together a learning plan. And where we are unique is that it is one-on-one customized tutoring around the learning plan of that particular individual. So we don't have a computer-based program that everyone follows. It's extremely unique based on
the individual.
Yeah. Now, we do also offer homework help, which is a classroom setting where on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, students, mostly high schoolers, 7th, 8th graders also can come in, and we have 2 tutors available. They sit around a U-shaped table, and they work on their homework. So these are individuals that don't necessarily have foundational gaps, but they just need that extra little help. They need that quieter environment to work in. They need to be away from their home in order to get their homework done. And then we also do specialize in ACT and SAT preparation. And so we have a diagnostic test that tells us where those gaps are, if it's test-taking strategies, if it's foundational gaps. And then again, we put together a learning plan on how to help the student get into the college that they want to get into.
Do you find, we're talking with Tara Cox about the nannies and the sitters and the tutors between Peoria and Bloomington, and do you find, I mean, are people aware of your service? Are you forever having to remind them or tell them for the first time, perhaps, here's what we offer, because you've just laid out quite a few different things that might serve somebody. Oh, I just need Johnny to do some homework, or we need to help Sally, all the time. I mean,
so I do think that's a challenge of a small business. If we were in a metropolitan area where there's a number of tutoring centers everywhere, if there's a number of sitting services, then people are used to looking it up and finding it. For us, it's a brand new concept. Now, we do have other learning centers, but we don't actually provide services that are like theirs. Ours is very unique. And so it is a constant reminder, because not only did we take a risk and go into a non-metropolitan area, but we also brought in a brand new service concept into central Illinois. And so marketing is constantly, a challenge for us in making sure people understand who we are and what our core values are.
If somebody is watching this, listening to this, and wants to find out more or get in touch with you because they know somebody who's really a perfect nanny or a perfect tutor or needs that service, where do you have a website, or where would you send them?
We do. So there's many, many ways you can reach out to us. You can go to collegenanniesandtutors.com. You can call us at 309-240-9007. We
007. I like that. Okay.
We also have a Facebook page, or you can email us at peoria.il@collegenannies.com. So many ways to find us.
And of course, that's the name of the game now. Everyone's spread across all these different platforms. Has there been any surprises to you? Now, it sounded like you made a good conscious decision, and you've been in business, you know what's going on. Have you had any surprises since you got into this in terms of, I didn't expect this? I mean, I'm just wondering.
Yeah. Oh, goodness. I've had all kinds of surprises. I came from the corporate world.
Yeah, well, they surprise every day.
And then I moved into owning my own small business. No, I think from my perspective, the biggest surprise is how much of an impact I am having on the community and how much a small business can help a community be successful, and understanding what that responsibility looks like and how you want to define your role in it, which for me is very, very important.
Do you find, has there been a case or two where someone is maybe a parent, I'm thinking here, finds it hard to bring themselves to ask, okay, I think my student or my child is in need of French help or whatever the subject is. Is that a problem sometimes, getting that out, or are they more than anxious to do that?
I think every parent's a little different in wanting to acknowledge where their child is at in their learning journey. But because of our learning manager, Joanna, she spends a great deal of time really talking to them, understanding where the student is at. Some of our students have, emotional challenges. Some of our children that we support in the home have emotional and physical challenges that we need to work through, making sure that we have the right matches for them and qualified individuals who know how to work, with any of the challenges they might be facing. So it's really about, being able to speak openly and honestly with the parent on what needs to happen, and then empowering them to make the choice with that additional, education that we've given them.
Are you finding, is Peoria as strong as Bloomington? Are you getting equal both? Or
yeah.
How do you,
I wish it was equal.
Yeah.
Definitely. And probably because I am from the Peoria area. Peoria is where I've decided to focus first. As we look at where we want to grow and expand, we'll be looking at possibly micro-learning centers going into areas, such as Morton and Washington and places like that.
Makes
and then
sense.
Going into Bloomington.
Okay. So, sort of incrementally taking steps.
Yeah, but now saying that, we do have nannies and sitters. And we do have many, many families in the Bloomington area. So we do have several hundred families right now between Peoria and Bloomington. But with our mobile app, they can look at the profile of the sitters that we've matched them to, and they can book it all on their own. It'll be more the tutoring that is a slow expansion into the Bloomington area. When I say slow, we're looking at, growth over the next, 2 to 3 years.
And as far as getting the folks that serve as nannies and sitters and tutors, is that harder now? Is it? I mean, I know you've only been involved with it for a couple of years. Is it an ongoing challenge to find those folks, or are they coming to you freely?
Yeah, so we spend a lot of time going through the selection process, a lot of time. We'll interview several hundred. We'll start the process, and at the end of the day, we'll bring on 40 to 50. So right now we have approximately 140 employees.
Wow. So it's not such a teeny tiny small business. It's good size.
It's about finding someone who understands that it's about being interactive with the children. It's not about sitting them in front of a TV. So what we have found works best is we really spend a lot.
Like the parents do.
Right.
No, okay. Sorry.
And limiting game time to 20 minutes, with video games. So it's different things like that, and it is more challenging. So we specifically look for individuals who want a career working with children, who understand they have to have a minimum of 1 year already working with children because they need to understand the complexity of it.
Sure.
They need to understand developmental milestones.
Yep.
So what we find is that our typical sitter that may be in college, which is probably about 60 to 70% of our team, they're looking at becoming a nurse in pediatrics. They're looking at teaching, special education, social work, physical therapy, working again with children. So these are individuals that are aspiring long-term to continue to work with children the rest of their lives. Now, the individuals that are full-time with us, they're looking more, they typically have early childhood certifications. They're individuals that have already made that decision with the age group of children. So most of our nannies are working with what you would expect, infants and toddlers. And so we look for that early childhood degree.
Wow. Well, we've been talking with Tara Cox, and Tara, it sounds fascinating. You got to be sort of. I'm just thinking as you're talking. I'm thinking, okay, so you're always kind of going through folks to find out, who's interested. You're talking with families. You're between Peoria and Bloomington. You got to be a busy person.
If you ask my children, they would say yes.
Do they have a nanny? Oh, okay. Well, you wouldn't know where to get one.
Well,
that's all right.
They are older, and we refer to them as role models because at their age, a nanny or a sitter, it's not cool. So they have their role models.
Okay, very good. Well, Tara, thank you so much for coming on here. And again, give us the website, because I think that may be somewhere someone who's watched this maybe want to drop in there and take a look at it.
Absolutely. So collegenannies+Tutors.com. And again, if you want to email us with any type of, questions, PeoriaIL@collegenannies.com.
Very good.
Yeah.
Thanks again.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Steve.
And thanks to Matt Dayhoff, who's at the controls here, gets it out on Facebook. And this is Steve Tarter. We'll see you next time on Tartar Sauce.